The next item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. As honorable members know, you may press the talk button on your desk if you wish to ask a supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honorable Joan Fabs. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Shope.
I rise under Rule 58.
Go on, Honorable Member. You rise under Rule 58.
Yeah. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, as EFF, we've been writing to your office requesting that you must not allow Jacob Zuma to speak in this parliament. We have been following all processes and procedures, Speaker. We want to put it today to ask you, Guti, how long are you going to continue with this thing of allowing him? Because there is a constitutional court judgment against President Zuma.
Honorable.
He have broke his oath of office.
Honorable Shope.
And Speaker, we said he must be charged.
Honorable Shope.
And your office must also discipline him. We have right to you, Speaker. We have followed all procedures as members of Parliament who are voted in by people on the ground. What must we do, Speaker?
Honorable.
I know, Speaker, that you are going to call bouncers to
Honorable
keep us out.
Shope,
but,
please.
Speaker, can we appeal on your conscience? Just to take this matter, let us debate this matter here.
Honorable
because as the EFF, we are saying President Zuma must not speak in Parliament until you do something as the Speaker of Parliament. It can't be a business as usual, Speaker.
Honorable Shope, there's no basis for the President not to speak in Parliament, as I have already said that on a different occasion. You actually went as EFF with this matter to court yesterday, and it was thrown out. And it was dismissed.
Order.
So, honorable members,
on a point of order.
Today's business
on a point of order
is questions to the President.
On a point of order.
What's the point of order, Honorable Shibam?
Speaker, you have no right, none whatsoever, to mislead this House. There's no issue that is being raised by the DSG that has been taken to court yesterday. Yesterday, we dealt with the issue of the criminals that come here to assault us, that they must not be allowed to come into the House. There was no issue and no reference to the issue of Jacob Zuma not speaking here. He must not speak here because when he continues to speak here, he's undermining the Constitution. So please do not mislead the House. We must never allow this man to speak
Honorable
here.
Shibambu, there is no basis on which the President is not allowed to speak in Parliament. That is the point I am making. And I am saying that we are going to proceed with question number 7.
Mina lana ebengifuna ukukuzwa lana njengosihlalo wethu la ngaphambili.
Mama uKhawula bengakakuvumeli ukuthi ukhulume.
Uzongivumela?
Angizange ukuvumele bungakaze usho ukuthi ufuna ukukhuluma.
Okay, ngiyaxolisa ke.
Umthetho.
Okay, mina eqinisweni ngifuna ukusho iqiniso nje. Angisayifuna ukuyikhuluma indaba yemthetho ngoba imithetho la eSouth Africa kwabanye iyabavuna kwabanye ayibavuni. Mina ngikhumbula imhlonishwa lapho ngaphambili umuntu enecala ngisho esontweni umfundisi mayisapenywa uyakhishwa onjani noma ngamele uzotshengisana isithombe emphakathini akaphume kungene omunye lapha kusinawo upresident lathi
Mamukhawula. And all other honorable members that came into the House to disrupt and to disturb the House. I appeal to you, honorable members, to allow the House to proceed. Honorable member, on what basis are you up on your feet and speaking to the
order?
I didn't allow you to
South Africa. Mopresidente wa naga yo lo mmitang
Honorable
gore ke
Mokause.
mopresidente a senyeditseng naga ya South Africa ka teng. A wa re tswelele re mo retse re ntse re itse gore o utswile madi a setšhaba re ntse re itse gore o irileng mo South Africa.
I
Re followile
recognize
di process
Honorable
tsotlhe tse wena o di tlhokang gore di followe jaaka mokgatlho wa EFF di re tswalela ko ntle.
I recognize the Honorable the Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the rules of this House have determined that once a quarter the President comes to this House to answer questions. This is the agreement reached by all parties in this House, that today, the 17th, the President will come to answer questions. Therefore, any of these issues that are being raised by the economic
On a point of order.
fighters is not in terms of the rules. In fact, it is showing disrespect to
On
the
a point
rules
of
of
order,
this House. Also, as decided, Speaker, by the programming committee of this Parliament. This program committee has scheduled that the President will answer questions today. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That point
Honorable
of
Speaker.
order by the Honorable the Chief Whip is sustained.
Honorable
The
Speaker.
EFF sits in the National
Honorable Speaker.
Assembly Program Committee, which has adopted the program according to which today we are taking questions to the President.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Julius Malema, please do not get up and call the Speaker in the middle of me making a statement in the House.
Point taken.
But Honorable Malema, please take your seat.
Will I be
Take
recognized?
your seat, Honorable Malema.
I'm asking you to recognize me.
To recognize you on what point?
But you just recognized Jackson.
Take a seat.
Then tell me where.
He was sitting
But
when I
under
recognized
which rule
him.
were you recognizing him?
Honorable Malema, take your seat. Honorable members, I have a duty, honorable members, to ensure that this program of this afternoon, as agreed by the program committee, shall proceed according to what we have agreed as honorable members of this House. And the rules and orders of the House are going to be respected to make sure that we have smooth proceedings this afternoon. Anyone who breaks the rules must then allow us to deal with them according to the rules. Anyone who breaks consistently the rules, anyone who is insistently disruptive and provocative to the chair, we will not allow that situation the whole afternoon because we have business before us. And therefore, honorable members, I appeal to you to cooperate and abandon your campaign of trying to get the president not to speak, because the president is going to answer questions this afternoon here in this House. All of you have your hands up. Honorable Malema.
Thank you very much, Speaker. We are raising a very simple matter, and we have followed the procedure. Following the Constitutional Court judgment, we wrote a letter to you to ask you to institute a disciplinary action against Mr. Zuma. Till today, you have not done anything. And our problem is that the Constitutional Court ruling is going to be treated the same way you treated Public Protector's findings. And that will result in rendering that Constitutional Court redundant. And all of us sitting here, we will be party to rendering the Constitutional Court useless by allowing the President to continue business as usual, even when there is a Constitutional Court ruling. It is unfair, it is unacceptable that this Parliament does not see anything wrong, that even when the Constitutional Court has made serious findings against Mr. Zuma, there is nothing happening. No one has been disciplined, no one has been fired. Today, it must be business as usual. It's unacceptable, Honorable Speaker. It is on the basis of that we are asking you and asking this House not to allow the President to speak here up until there is a process to rehabilitate him. There must be a rehabilitation process which Zuma is subjected to. That's what we're asking.
I have given you ample time to make your speech, which was absolutely unnecessary, as you know, because the issues you are raising are issues that have been put before properly constituted meetings of this honorable Parliament, and there are structures that you know you have to pursue if you want to pursue anything along what you are raising. I have written to you, Honorable Malema, and explained what I'm saying right now. And I am not allowing you to make another speech this afternoon. I am now proceeding with the business of this House.
Speaker.
I am not allowing any more points from those benches, honorable members.
Speaker.
Honorable members.
Be disciplined.
Honorable members, take your seats.
Be disciplined. You must be disciplined.
Take your seats, honorable members.
You must be disciplined. You ask us to stick by the rules, Mario. You don't stick by the rules.
The rules are applicable today.
No.
Allow our members to speak.
So, honorable members, you are clearly, deliberately contravening the rules.
Can we correct the misconceptions that you have been putting? It's not true that we agreed as the EFF in any committee whatsoever that a president that has broken his oath of office must come answer questions here.
I now would like
the programming committee which agreed about this said long before the rulings of the Constitutional Court happened. You must not mislead the country.
Oh, wait.
Withdraw from the chamber, honorable Dozie.
No, I have done nothing wrong. The first person who must withdraw.
You have done everything wrong.
The first person that must withdraw is the one who has broken an oath of office. An oath of office. What have I broken, Honorable
Zuma is the one who must go.
Sergeant at Arms
is the one who must go. No one must go here. Zuma has not respected his oath of office. We're not leaving this house today. We want to live here as dead people.
What language
you can do anything you want to do.
Understand us.
No, Mama, it's not going to happen. Don't even waste our time. We're not going anywhere. We are not going
Zuma is the one who must withdraw. You are withdrawing a wrong person. Zuma is the one who must go.
The Sergeant at Arms must go and tell Zuma to go now.
Sergeant of Arms tells Zuma to go.
Chairperson.
Sergeant of Arms tells Zuma to leave.
Chairperson. Chairperson.
That criminal must go. Zuma. The one that lives here. Jacob, this is our parliament.
Point of order, Speaker. Point of order, Speaker. Point of order, Speaker.
Honorable.
Can you see?
The person who must leave this house is Zuma. You can kill us the way you want to do it. We are not scared of anything. Come and kill us here today.
Honorable Johnson, do you have a point of order?
On a point of order, Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Johnson.
Is it parliamentary for a young person to call?
There is no young person here.
There is no
person
no
here.
young person.
You failed.
There's
You
no
failed
young
in your
person
political
here.
career.
You are honorable
You failed in your
members.
political career.
You are
You
No
said
young
you
person
are
here. When.
Just sit down and
Why
enjoy
not
your
your kids,
salary.
man? Sit
down
down.
and enjoy your salary.
Enjoy your salary.
Supporting illegal
Honorable members,
Just
There's
sit down.
nothing you can do.
honorable
backbencher.
members,
There's
for the
nothing you
sake
can
of
do.
the House,
Just
I
be a
want to
backbencher
read
there. Big
the rule.
Backbencher,
Under a
sit
roof.
there.
Sit there.
You want
Keep
your
quiet.
party.
I want
know
to
young people
read
here.
Rule 51.
Just sit down.
People who are not interested.
It
We're also going
says,
to read you Rule 50.
We are not interested on anything.
if the presiding officer is of the
You are paid to
opinion
sit there at the bench
that a member
in
is
a bench without
deliberately
pedestals.
contravening a provision of these rules,
What provision?
Zuma
Oh,
is the
that
one who
a
must
member-
withdraw from
provision?
the house.
You are not
He is
respecting those
condemned
provisions.
of us. Zuma
of-
must go.
You are
or
not
is
respecting those
disregarding the
provisions.
authority of the chair, or that a member's conduct is grossly disorderly,
Read 51
he
together
or
with
she
52.
may order the member to withdraw immediately from the chamber
Which one?
for the remainder
Speaker, we are so impatient
of the day's
about us. Why
sitting.
don't you listen to us and
Zuma
engage?
has
therefore-
agreed that he deliberately broke the constitution
I call
and even
upon Honorable
apologized.
Sope,
It's an admission.
To what?
Honorable Low,
To do what?
Honorable Shibambu,
What's your problem?
Honorable Malema, Honorable
What
Mete,
did I do? Tell me my problem.
Honorable
Don't
Matias,
address me as a group. Tell me
Honorable
my problem. What
Paulsen.
did I do?
Honorable Kaula, Honorable Mbata, Honorable
Speaker,
Mukause.
what did I do? Why are you calling out my
Zuma
name
is
here?
the one
All
who
these
must withdraw
honorable
from this
members
house. Zuma
must
must
withdraw
go.
from the
Zuma
chamber.
must go.
Forget to ask Zuma on that list. to
Honorable
go.
members, withdraw from the House. I now call upon the Parliamentary Protection Services to assist. In addition to those members, Honorable Mashabela, Honorable Sonti, Honorable Muteka, Honorable Machobeni, Honorable Ntobongwana, Honorable Matluku, Honorable Mhlongo,
Hey, Kediten.
Honorable Ketabahle, Honorable Khaula, Honorable Dlamini, Honorable Koza, and Honorable Mulaudzi. Honorable members, order. I wish to point out that when I was calling out the list of the honorable members that had to leave the chamber, the name of Honorable Mashabela was included in the list by mistake. It was by mistake. I would like the Honorable Mashabela to feel free to take her seat if she wants to, but should she want to leave the house, she's free.
I'm not ready to listen for a thing.
Order, honorable members, can we go back to the order paper?
Point of order, sir.
Who's calling on a point of order? Yes, Honorable Filtani.
Thank you, Chair. I think Parliament has a duty to find a better way of managing this kind of situation. It may be cool for ANC
Honorable
people
Filtani,
at this point in time to howl me
I
down.
appreciate that you might want to raise an important matter, but I think let's not now delay the
that's
business
not
of the House any further. That issue can still be raised in a different meeting, not this one, Honorable Filtani.
That's all I wanted to say, Chair. I'm not opening up anything. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay,
There
thank
must
you
be a
very
better
much.
way of dealing with this situation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, I have raised this matter in a different forum, and I would like to address you on it because I
Which
believe
one?
it's important.
Which
I have repeatedly asked about uniforms and badges for the members of the Parliamentary Protection Services who come into this chamber.
Yes.
I'm appalled that it's taken 4 months since I originally raised this at the POA. Not a single one of these people in a proper uniform or identifiable. And I want to place it on record that we will take whatever steps are necessary to prevent them from coming to this house. If the Secretary doesn't get his act together and get those name badges so that we can identify those members. I don't know why he's sitting on his hands, but it's an indictment on him that they are in the chamber today without a name badge.
Thank you, Honorable Steenhuisen. Your point is taken, and we have indeed raised the matter with the Secretary, and I will personally follow it up with the Secretary. Okay, honorable members, I had already said that the first question has been asked by the Honorable Fabs, and I now finally call upon the Honorable the President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Operation Phakisa is aimed at enabling us to fast-track the delivery of national priorities contained in the National Development Plan 2030. While the foundation of this concept can be traced back to Malaysia, it is being implemented in a unique South African way. Operation Phakisa has worked very well in South Africa in different sectors, including the ocean economy, healthcare, basic education, and mining. Since its inception in July 2014, the ocean economy component of Operation Phakisa has unlocked 17 billion rand in both public sector and private sector investments. A total of 4,500 new jobs have been created in this segment. A number of key lessons have been learned over the past 2 years. Firstly, Operation Phakisa is unique in that it brings together government, private sector, civil society, academia, and communities to develop solutions together. Secondly, Operation Phakisa strengthens public accountability and transparency through the consistent monitoring of progress made. The challenges are addressed early on. We also constantly report back to the public on commitments made. There are a few aspects of Operation Phakisa that can be improved upon. Operation Phakisa provides great opportunities for partnerships between the public and private sectors, as demonstrated in the ocean economy sector. However, greater effort is still required to unlock further investments in our economy by the private sector. Government is making progress in creating a conducive environment for investment. This includes working to remove impediments such as the energy constraints, easing the regulatory environment, and promoting labor stability. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Fabs.
Thank you, Mr. President. But please also tell South Africans the extent of foreign and domestic investment that Operation Phakisa has attracted and is attracting. Tell us about the empowerment opportunities it has created and the support for supplier development to increase black participation, especially manufacturers. Are there specific industrial subsectors where Operation Phakisa is deepening industrialization, product localization, and job creation? Finally, Mr. President, there's also a need for increased participation by the black people in the mining and manufacturing beneficiation value chain in the decision-making processes of Phakisa. I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, as I've indicated, Operation Phakisa is inclusive. As I've said, all the sectors that relate to economic activities are participating. We were in Nelson Mandela Metro recently, where we dealt with the launch of the Operation Phakisa, where all sectors were there. It's very inclusive, but it is also emphasizing on local products. For an example, there are boats that are being built as a result of Operation Phakisa, some of which are being ordered and sold in the continent of Africa. And those who are working on it indicated that more than 90% of the material that build the boats come from South Africa, nowhere else. And that indicates the change that Operation Phakisa is bringing. We saw young black professionals who are leading that process, who are in charge in many ways. We saw women who are participating in highly professional kind of jobs that they are doing. So it is delivering on what we wanted it to deliver. And the investment that I talked about is, in fact, enabling the ocean's economy to become one of the most bigger contributor to our economy as we'll be growing in different places. We were able to indicate the plan that is ongoing in terms of building new harbors and refurbishing some and extending some that have been smaller. So that is the issue of expanding and industrialization. So it is achieving that goal. Thank you.
The Honorable Esther Reason.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable President, we know the health, Operation Phakisa has two aspects, marine and health, and we know the health-related aspects of Operation Phakisa and the intention to make healthcare accessible to millions of South Africans in the rural areas by building a further 216 clinics, and we applaud this initiative. However, we must take cognizance of the reality that many of our rural communities rely solely on medicine dispensed by traditional healers, while some combine traditional medicine with Western medicine, which may unintentionally do more harm than good. It is therefore essential that Operation Phakisa involve traditional healers to promote the use of these newly established clinics while optimizing the quality of healthcare. Honorable President, my question, how can and to what extent has this been taken into account in a way that traditional leaders will be involved and not be offended by this initiative? Thank you.
May I ask for your indulgence, Honorable President, for us to allow some medical personnel to come into the House just to assist quickly before the Honorable President proceeds with the next answer. If Honorable President can take a seat. Honorable members, I have requests here to perhaps suspend so we can allow you to stretch your bodies, but don't leave the chamber. Ningahambi. Sukuma nje nizelule. Hlalani hlengo. Order, honorable members, the stretcher has come. The honorable member is safe. I think at this point we can come back, settle down and proceed. Thank you very much for your understanding. Honorable Yesterreisen, if you don't mind just repeating your follow-up question, just to refresh our memories. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, Honorable President. Honorable President, Operation Phakisa covers marine and health. My question, we know the health-related aspects of Operation Phakisa and the intention to make healthcare accessible to millions of South Africans, especially in the rural communities, by building a further 216 clinics, and we applaud this initiative. However, we must take cognizance of the reality that many of our rural communities rely solely on traditional medicine dispensed by traditional healers, while some combine traditional medicine and Western medicine, which may unintentionally do more harm than good. It is therefore essential that Operation Phakisa involve traditional healers to promote the use of newly established clinics while optimizing the quality of healthcare to the people for all to enjoy. Honorable President, my question is how can and to what extent has this been taken into account in a way that traditional leaders will be involved and not be offended by this initiative? Thank you, Madam.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, it is true that the traditional medicine has been there all the time. And those who know it, they have used it historically. But of course, given the development in the Western medicine and the fact that many people believe in both, government has taken initiatives to increase the level of research on the specific traditional medicines. Those processes are on to try to bring harmony between the two, also to try to prove some of them scientifically, and see how these two could be utilized with the kind of research that will indeed satisfy that indeed the research says this particular medicine, this is what it could cure, and in what quantity or whatever. So that process is on. I believe that the Phakisa method will also help to propel that process to be given more effort so that it is completed not after a long time. There has been also interaction between the researchers and the departments of government with the traditional leaders. I think there is now generally an agreement that there is a need to work together between the two with an aim to improve the level of the traditional medicine or give more clarity on how these work. In other words, to be properly recorded and with proper instructions, with proper quantities, etc. Those are matters that are being attended to. Thank you.
The Honorable Mainir.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm sure that I speak for everybody in the House when I say that we wish the Honourable Member a speedy recovery. It was only a couple of hours ago that she was giving me a flea in my ear in the Standing Committee on Finance. Speaker, or Mr. President, of course you're right. Your economic policy is unique. In fact, it is so unique, it doesn't work. You have to accept that your economic policy, including the NDP and the 9-point plan and Operation Phakisa mentioned in your question, does not work. And the evidence for that is the staggering level of unemployment in South Africa, where 8.9 million people do not have jobs or have given up looking for jobs. And so do you agree that it's now time to implement the structural reforms necessary to boost economic growth and to create jobs in South Africa as recommended by the IMF? Or do you share the view of many of your close cabinet colleagues that the IMF is part of a campaign to destabilize and undermine developing countries like Brazil, Russia, and South Africa?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, the Honorable Member, I'm sure, brings together a number of issues that might need a lot of discussion. IMF has a history in this globe. We know exactly how it has been operating, and I don't think we want to get into that debate. But I would want to get into the point of the unemployment. The general point, unemployment is a problem globally. It's not a South African problem only. I will tell you, it's a global problem. It is wrong to project it as a South African problem only. Secondly, the issue of unemployment in South Africa, that it is the manner in which it is because of the political, historic problems of South Africa. Part of the people who are part of the unemployed are in fact unemployable because the apartheid system deliberately did not allow the majority of this country to be skilled so that they are ready to work, they are ready to create jobs. That is the problem we are faced with. There are people today who are not even able to look for a job, given the development of technology. That is the problem of the fact that they were not skilled. That is why South Africa looks like it is more exaggerated in other places. It's a fact of history, it's a political decision that was taken by the system, racially saying other people who were not white, they were not allowed to be given education or to be skilled. They are in abundance. We are addressing the problem of the past, problem of apartheid. That is the problem. That's what it is. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, Operation Phakisa was launched to address the poverty and inequality. However, the gap in South Africa between the rich and the poor is widening. Could you, Mr. President, tell us what plan you have to try and bridge this gap and give more to the poor? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, our policies, our programs address that issue directly. As I was indicating, the Operation Phakisa, for an example, is very inclusive. From the planning stage and at the implementation stage, everyone is there. The issue of inequality, again, is a historic problem in the country, different from other countries. We are dealing with people that one of the leaders of the ANC one day said the kind of law that was made, the Land Act, made the indigenous people to be worse than the slaves. So what do we expect in a young democracy that we are trying to address that problem of many years ago? So the gap is big, but we have all that it takes to work towards closing the gap. Our programs, our policies address that issue. That's why we have policies that are pro-poor, pro the working people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 8, asked by the Honorable Reverend Mishwe. Honorable President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have full confidence in the judicial system of the country. The statement made must be understood in the context of the judicial independence and also access to justice for all, irrespective of race, gender, class, or financial means. According to the Constitution, courts are independent and are subject only to the constitution of the law, which they must apply impartially and without fear, favor, or prejudice. During the debate of the opening address to the National House of Traditional Leaders, members deliberated about land restitution and the role that traditional leaders should play in this regard. In my address, I encouraged traditional leaders to fully participate in discussions on land restitution, considering that they lead communities whose livelihood largely depends on working the land. Secondly, I suggested that whatever decision or mode of engagement they choose to embark upon will have to be within the framework of the Constitution and the law. Thirdly, I proposed that it may be important for traditional leaders to seek good legal representation because the issue of land reform is complex and fundamental. Because litigation is expensive, they should pool resources so that they can afford good legal representatives and deal with this historical injustice. Importantly, as government, we take the question of providing good legal aid seriously to our people, which is why we are working to improve the functioning of the Legal Aid Board, whose budget has also been increased. We are also building more courts so that the poor do not have to travel long distances to obtain justice. For an example, Limpopo now has a high court for the first time ever. We are doing this because of our belief that all must have equal access to justice. Poverty must not mean lack of justice for the poor. I do not think that any of this undermines the Constitution and the rule of law. On the contrary, it affirms both. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Thank you, Honorable President, for your reply. Speaker, Section 165(4) of the Constitution of South Africa says, and I quote, "Organs of state through legislative and other measures must assist and protect courts to ensure the independence, impartiality, dignity, accessibility, and effectiveness of the courts," close quote. What the President said regarding the judiciary during the sitting of the National House of Traditional Leaders seems to undermine Section 165(4) of the Constitution. According to a news broadcast of the proceedings, which I have on video, the President states, and I quote, "The law looks at one side only. They do not look at any other thing," close quote. This seems to imply that the law is partial to some degree and therefore cannot be trusted. Does the President agree that this statement is a breach of the Constitution? If he does not, how does his statement protect the dignity and impartiality of the courts in the light of Section 165(4) of the Constitution? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm not sure how the Honorable Member understood the statement that I made when I was advising the traditional leaders on a very important matter and taking the experience, particularly of the poor people over which they take charge. For an example, if people were to claiming of the land, I'm sure it is common knowledge that if you don't have legal representative, it is difficult for you to win any kind of litigation. You need litigation, you need lawyers in the litigation to help you fight your case. You can't say because the Constitution makes it very clear, you can just go to court and say, I have no lawyer, I'm here, and hope that you can win a case. You know no technicalities, you know no law, you are not studying any law. That's why you need representation. And those who have money, they will get the better quality of legal defense. It's a reality. It's a reality. The point I was making to them was that given the fact that there's been reopening of the land claim, rather than them going individually, they must put their resources together and have one good firm that is going to help them to argue these cases better. That was the advice I was giving. That does not undermine the Constitution. The point I was making on the thing, I was just making an example, that legal people will tell you, legal people look at cold facts and deal with the case. And my view, and I've said this before, that yes, it is legal, but it is dealing with the warm bodies. Now, how do you deal with that? You can then interpret it in your own way. It's just a fact. That's why there is an expression that ignorance of the law has no excuse. Whether you know the law or not, the law is going to take its course. I was advising the traditional leaders this time around that they must not lose cases because they don't have good lawyers in the litigation. That's the point I was making.
The Honorable Msimang.
Honorable Speaker.
No, Honorable Mishoye, your time has passed. I gave you an opportunity for a supplementary question. It's now the turn of Honorable Msimang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, having heard you outline your interaction with the traditional leaders, I would now like to focus on that aspect of the question which seems to question your trust in the independence of the judiciary. And I would like you to advise this House as to the steps you have taken within your own party to ensure the independence of the judiciary, and more particularly that judicial decisions once handed down are not open to derision and second-guessing on public platforms by members of your party. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, I trust the judiciary. And my party trusts the judiciary. What I don't fully understand what the honorable member is saying about me doing something to my party because of the comments that people make after judgment. I don't appreciate that. I don't understand it properly, because every judgment that is made, there are comments, not just comments in generalities. There are even experts who comment about judgments that are made by the judiciary. Do those people not respect and trust the judiciary? Others even disagree with certain aspects of the judgments. So I don't understand how the question comes. Does it mean ANC people must not comment about anything in the judiciary because they're ANC? I don't think so. Any judgment that has been made, people comment, newspapers write, experts come to TV and radios and analyze, and that's what it is. So I don't know, that's why I say I don't understand the question, really. My party trust the judiciary. That is a direct answer to your question.
The Honorable Bongo.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable President.
Honorable President, can you kindly share with the South African public on how those who have resources in abundance tend to use the judicial system of our country to suppress those who do not have the resources in abundance, particularly in traditional communities? Thank you, President.
The Honorable the President.
Well, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think it is a well-known fact that people who don't have the resources, some of them stay in prison for a long time because they just don't have bail to bail themselves out. And there are many. It's a well-known fact. Even at times, even if the case is not very heavy. But those who have the means are able to deal with the matter of the bail immediately. Insofar as whether the ones who have the means suppress the others, unless you define in what way, because it is only if you are talking about people going to the case, one having the resources to have the best lawyers, one having none. It is the system rather than individuals doing so, which means those who have the means, if they've got any quarrel that leads to litigation, certainly they have upper hand, because they'll get the best lawyers and they can do more. But insofar as general life, in terms of law and those who get arrested, certainly there are many up to this day who are in prison. Perhaps they did not even have just 1,000 rand to bail themselves out. In other words, the system itself does not say because you don't have the money. Sorry, because you are poor. You stay in prison. And that's the point I was making earlier. That if you don't have anything, no matter what are your circumstances, you have to follow the law. The law cuts whether there is a bone or no bone. It is the law that we respect. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, you continue to undermine the authority of the judiciary by making contentious statements such as those that have been referred to already. After giving the Chief Justice an undertaking that you would stop doing so, will you desist and will you apologize to the judiciary?
I'm not sure whether I heard the question properly.
Honorable Breitenbach, do you mind repeating the question?
Not at all. Mr. President, you continue to undermine the authority of the judiciary by making contentious statements, such as those that have been referred to this afternoon. After giving the Chief Justice an undertaking that you would stop doing so, will you desist and will you apologize to the judiciary?
Honorable the President.
I'm not sure whether I understand the question now, but I don't understand why it is as I've just answered the question. Now, if I had not answered the question which the honorable member is referring to, which I've just explained, and I don't know what is it that I must apologize to the Chief Justice about. I really don't understand, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, the rules allow MPs to have their questions answered. The Honourable Breitenbach's question, with respect, was different. You see what happens when you actually abide by the rules. This is how the ANC behaves.
Honourable members, please allow Honourable Steenhuisen to finish his issue. What is the matter, Honourable?
He may have answered the Honourable Meshwe's question. The truth of the matter is the Honourable Breitenbach is referring to a different undertaking to the head of the judiciary in South Africa, which he said he would stop undermining the judiciary, and whether he was prepared to apologize. He can't say that he doesn't have to answer the question. He does. It's got nothing to do with the previous question.
Sure, Honourable Steenhuisen, the President has said he has understood the question when Honourable Breitenbach repeated it. However, he is not in a position to answer the way you might want him to answer. So I think let's just accept that.
Madam Speaker,
Honourable Steenhuisen, please, let's not have an engagement on the matter.
Madam Speaker, I don't want to have an engagement with you. I just want my members to get their questions answered. We've been
He has
criticised-
answered, Honourable
He has not
Steenhuisen.
answered.
No, Honourable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, he
Honourable
said he doesn't want to answer the
we've
question.
had this engagement before, and we've said that when a member of the executive answers but does not answer in the manner you would like them to answer, they've answered nonetheless, and there's nothing we can do about the content and the fact that you are not satisfied. And therefore, I appeal to you, Honourable
Madam Speaker,
Steenhuisen,
we'd be happy
to
with
take
any
your
content. He's refusing to answer the question at all. This
Honourable-
is precisely why the Constitutional Court criticised this House, because we're not
Honourable
holding him
Steenhuisen,
accountable.
Please, let's pass on to question number 9. Question number 9 was asked by the Honourable Mahlalela, and I call upon the Honourable the President.
You must laugh if I'm a joke. Why don't you laugh? Honorable Speaker, on the 2nd of March 2016, the United Nations Secretary General announced the appointment of a commission on health, employment, and economic growth, co-chaired by myself and President Francois Hollande of France. The Sustainable Development Goals set an ambitious agenda to improve the lives of all, including through improved health and prosperity. Continuous outbreaks of diseases have confirmed the urgent need to build strong health systems and to strengthen our global health security. At the heart of the work of this commission are our health workers and employment in the health sector. The global economy is projected to create around 40 million new health sector jobs by 2030, mostly in the developed and developing world, or what is called middle and higher income countries. Yet, despite this anticipated growth in jobs, there will be a projected shortage of 18 million health workers for the developing countries in particular. While the rising global demand and need for health workers over the next 15 years presents significant challenges, we also believe it offers us in the developing countries or economies the opportunity to generate employment. The Commission is therefore charged with proposing actions to guide the creation of health and social sector jobs as a means to advance inclusive economic growth in the respective countries. We will be engaging differently at different sectors of our communities through the Commission to ensure that there are investments in health employment that would generate benefits. The Commission will also come up with new and creative ways of financing and supporting the growth of health and social sector employment as part of our investment into the future. It will analyze the risks that are caused by the global and regional imbalances, as well as the unequal distribution of health workers in various countries. For an example, many South African health workers, including nurses and doctors, work abroad, which has a negative impact in our own health facilities. The Commission will also look for and secure the political commitment from governments in the UN member states for the implementation of proposals. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mashalela.
Angibonge somlongo. Ngibonga ndangimangameli ngetimpendulo la nikete tona. Angithi mongameli, taking into consideration that the Commission is expected to cover a wide range of issues such as the universal health care, the creation of decent jobs, as well as the inclusive and transformative economy growth. How will the composition of the commissioners be structured, taking into consideration this massive work that is supposed to undertake? And taking into consideration, as you have said, President, that there is a projected shortages of 18 million health workers in low and lower middle income countries. How does the Commission intends to address the global shortfall of trained health workers, as well as the brain drain that we have just reflected in the lower and low and lower income countries, so that we avoid a situation where there is this huge mobility of health workers from lower income countries to higher income countries? Thanks very much.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In its very first meeting, the Commission in France addressed that issue very extensively, particularly given the lopsided nature of development and health facilities globally, and of course, the global economy. And it has taken a decision to look into that issue very strongly. How do we reverse the question of the skills that are developed by the developing countries, but they end up serving the developed countries? Secondly, for the Commission to be able to deal with the global issue, global situation equally, there are a number of experts in health in different sectors that are part of the Commission. So the Commission is well balanced in terms of those who are commissioners and those who are resources for the Commission itself. They come from all regions of the world. So there will be no region that will never be looked at by experts, and therefore work out to provide solutions to what needs to be done, and look at what is it that can be done to create jobs in this sector. And if we do so, how do we balance it between the developed and the developing world? There will be a report back in September in the United Nations, wherein the Commission will be reporting, and it has experts who lead the reporting in specific areas that they are doing research on, and many of them have a greater understanding of the global situation. Others emphasize more on the regions on which they've done work. We saw them at work in our first meeting. Many of them presented reports and proposals that indeed covered the globe. So I think as the Commission works further, it will be able to address those issues. I'm sure some of them would not be a short time kind of solutions. It will be solutions that will take time, but the solutions that are aiming at bringing the balance between the two different kind of situations of the developed and underdeveloped countries, and how we reverse the brain drain, so to speak, in the developing countries that need these skills so much. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable James.
Madam Speaker, I'm stunned by the fact that the Honourable President failed to mention the most important driver of health employment on the African continent, which results from an agreement signed between the African Union and the Atlanta-based Center for Disease Control to establish something called an African Center for Disease Control. It is breathtaking that as co-chair of a Health Employment Commission, the President doesn't mention the most fundamentally important driver of health employment on the continent that has resulted after the Ebola crisis of West Africa. Would the President then explain to this House why it is that the co-chair of this commission fails to acknowledge the most fundamentally important thing that has happened in Africa when it comes to health employment generation? Firstly. Secondly, would he mention to this House which African countries have agreed to be hosts to the regional centers for disease control? And finally, would the President please confirm in this House that this government will invest in our medical schools and not in Cuba for the training of health professionals to staff the centers for disease control in Africa? Would the President please do that? I thank you.
Of course, Honorable James, as you are aware, we expect you to ask one follow-up question. However, the President has a choice.
No, thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we are very much aware of the discussions that have been taking place in Africa to set that center. They actually started before the Ebola. They were not caused by Ebola. And countries have taken serious decisions. It is absolutely true. The question that I was answering was not about what is happening in the continent of Africa. So I don't understand why the honorable member says I failed to raise the issue of Africa. We're dealing with the global issues, which people were commenting on different kind of things. I was responding to the issue raised. It was not necessarily saying Africa, as I understood the question. Therefore, you have to deal with Africa. Otherwise, I would have dealt with Asia, I would have dealt with the Americas, I would have dealt with all the regions. I said almost every other region has a representative to deal with the matters. Insofar as us, on the matter of whether we are increasing the medical training, we are. We are actually developing more medical universities, which is an implementation of the approach that let us produce more doctors in particular. We are doing that. Of the new universities that we are establishing, which are 3, one of them is medical. So that issue is being attended to by this government. And we are participating in the continental coming together of pooling our knowledge and resources to address the diseases in the continent and coordinating it with the globe. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Firstly, I think you need to be complimented for having been chosen to co-chair this United Nations High-Level Commission on Health. Now, my question, Honorable President, relates to the influence that you'll have at the United Nations. And one understands that the job of this commission is to look at employment in the health sector. But I'm sure you could use your overall influence to influence other decisions that are taken at the United Nations. In particular, recently, after about 20 years, Honorable President, there was a special session which dealt with prohibitionist drug policies, despite a call for humane solutions. Now, Honorable President, I think you are aware that in 2014, Honorable Dr. Mario Ambrosini stood here in this House in response to the debate on your debate and made an impassioned plea for the use of alternative medication for palliative care for cancer patients. And in this regard, he mentioned cannabis oil and other products. Now, at the United Nations, we find that many Western countries and states in the United States have already legalized the use of cannabis oil and other products that are extracted from cannabis. Yet the United Nations is still backing prohibition of the use of these drugs. Now, Honorable President, my question is, can you give this House an assurance that South Africa will be a leader in medical innovation and that we will seriously consider the passage of this medical innovation bill, which will allow us to use products that will help millions of cancer sufferers in our country? Thank you.
The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Of course, the Honorable Member will recall that after the late Honorable Ambrosini's contribution, that matter was taken. I took it, for an example, to the department, and that matter has been looked at by the department. Certainly, if these issues arise, or this House, for an example, feel that matter needs to be raised there, I'm sure if this House feels that's what we need to do, certainly we'll do so. But if the matter is raised in the process of the work of the Commission, certainly we will do our best to make a contribution that must assist those who are in trouble in terms of, for an example, cancer, etc. What are the best medicines that are there? Of course, the issue of the late Honorable Ambrosini is a matter that needs research. And the researchers in our country will certainly empower me as I go there, what issue to raise, what issue need to be raised at the right time or whatever. I will always do so on behalf of the country. There's no doubt about it. But I have to be guided by medical research and the reports that are there and the innovation that is being done by South Africa. If yes, then I will certainly raise those issues to influence the situation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, let me congratulate you your appointment as the co-chair. You see, my colleagues don't like to hear that, so they don't like to hear success. Honorable President, we are aware that 18 million health care workers, that is what the shortage will be by 2013. We have a high unemployment rate in South Africa. Do you plan to put a process in place to train as many healthcare workers for the purpose of exporting our qualified healthcare workers? And would you put a plan in place to ensure that from a school curriculum point of view, from about grade 10, we introduced healthcare so that we will be able to identify and attract those with a passion for healthcare and also ensure that we do not have a crisis by the year 2030. Thank you.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The education system is actually being transformed. That includes how do we influence the students in terms of choosing the areas they want to go to. That is being done at a level of basic education so that by the time they reach tertiary, they know exactly where they need to go. But that's a process that is going together with the transformation of education and also bringing about quality to education, but also to ensure that children are helped to make those kind of choices. So the plans are there, are in place, are being implemented, and I can't give the time frames that by this time we'll be able to do the final thing that we say we should be doing. But the plans are there. We have been saying in terms of education, we need, for an example, to emphasize on specific kind of education that is going to skill our youth so that they are able to work. That's why, for an example, we have created more colleges so that they don't just only go to universities, but they are also there to skill themselves in terms of the work that is needed by the economic activities. That's part of what we are doing. So the programs are there. We are intensifying them as we go. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 10, asked by the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. South Africa is a constitutional democracy. The Constitution places certain responsibilities on the President and the executive collectively. The steps required to be taken by the executive are clearly spelled out in the Constitution and applicable legislation. Members of the executive do comply with their legal obligations as set out in the Constitution. They appear in Parliament to discharge their obligations as and when required, such as through attending parliamentary sittings, answering parliamentary questions, participate in debates, attending meetings of portfolio committees, and various other activities. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. On the 15th of November 2012, you said, and I'd like to quote, "My residence in Nkandla has been paid for by the Zuma family. All the buildings and every room we use in that residence were built by ourselves as a family and not by government. I have never asked government to build a home for me, and it has not done so. The government has not built a home for me. I engaged the banks, and I'm still paying a bond for the first phase of my home." Iqiniso ukuthi, it's become very clear that you did not pay for the upgrades in your home. And in fact, the Constitutional Court and the Public Protector have both said that your family has unduly benefited from the upgrades in your private house using South Africa's taxpayers' money. My question, Mr. Zuma, is that both statements cannot hold true. So it's either the Constitutional Court and the Public Protector are lying to the people of South Africa, or you are in fact lying to the people of South Africa. So what I would like to know is, if you can, before the people of South Africa, please clarify where the bond
Order,
is.
Speaker. Point of order, Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member, what's the point of order?
No, the order, Speaker, is that the gallery continue to participate, and I guess, or my money continue to mislead the House. And these people will continue to participate, whereas they are not supposed to participate.
Thank you for the point of order. I will deal with the issue of the gallery. I'd like to allow the Leader of the Opposition to complete his question.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Steenhuisen, can I allow Honorable Maimane to finish his question?
Well,
so that I can focus on one thing.
The point of order, if I may.
No, Honorable Steenhuisen, can I finish with the Honorable Maimane first? Please finish, Honorable Maimane.
The question is, either you are lying to the people of South Africa, or the Constitutional Court and the Public Protector are. I personally don't believe that the Concord and the Public Protector are lying to the people of South Africa. Therefore, what I'd like to know is if you could please provide proof of the bond, and whether or not you can clarify to the people of South Africa which is true. Did you in fact pay with a bond for the upgrades of your house? Because I think that's a lie. Could you please clarify that statement, please?
Why did you mislead us? Tell us the truth for once.
Before I take the Honorable the President, can I just make an appeal to the gallery? This is a matter that we appreciate. Maybe guests are here for the first time, but the rule is that our valued guests must just sit and watch the proceedings without participating. You participate if you clap. You participate if you respond or somehow engage in the proceedings on the floor. So we request our guests to please not be part of what's going on the floor. And I hope that this will be taken in the spirit in which it is being raised. The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, I must say to the honorable member, I did not lie. And your question is deliberately phrased in a manner that clouds the real situation. When I answered the question here in this parliament, I said, the family built our home, not government. I even said by the time the government came with its requirement, I started building or extending my home when I was a deputy president, not the president. No, lalela nguphendule. Just listen. You asked your question, I'm answering you. You can't be asking again. Listen, so that you not repeat it next time. By the time I became the president, the buildings were up. The first one was at the window level, at the roof level. Second one at the window level. The third one, the foundation was beginning to rise. There had been no government before because government came as soon as I became the president with a plan based on the old homestead before it was extended. They came with a plan. I said, your plan is not going to fit here because your plan is not in keeping with the size that I'm now extending. They went back to work on it. That's when they came back. The building, landscaping, everything was on. And we are not going to hear and ask the question again, as your leader did not understand it properly even then. Just keep quiet and listen. We built the house. And the Concord has not said, I lied when I said the family built the house. The public protector has not said so. Public protector says what government provided as security features in my homestead. Security features in my homestead. Security features is not building my house. No, lalela.
Order, honorable members.
I want to explain this so that we are clear. And there are items that were counted by the public protector who did not say they were part of the house that was being built. In other words, government came to build this. These items, they represent the crawl, foul run, swimming pool, yebo, fire pool, yes, fire pool, and the waiting room, and the amphitheater. Agreed? 5. They're not talking about houses that people live in their bedrooms or sitting rooms. It's not talking about that. That's not the issue that either the protector or the Concord was talking about. There are 5 issues that the public protector says was built by government, not the homestead. The family indirectly and myself benefited, and there must be reasonable payment for it. You are not correct, therefore, Honorable Member, to say your homestead was built by the government. No, it's not true. 3 items that are in the order of the Concord. There are specific items that we are dealing with. So I want to correct you. It could not be correct that I was lying when I say my homestead was built by my family. It was. The first phase of it, I have a bond that I'm paying. The second one, the family paid. Not the 5 issues that were built by government. That must be very clear, so that if you ask the question properly. I therefore never lied to say I built my homestead with my family. I've never said I built the 5 items that the Concord talks about. That was built by government. The Concord and the public protector says the family on what the government built indirectly benefited, and there must be a reasonable amount to be paid. That's a true story. So I'm telling you, I'm telling the people of South Africa, I never lied. And Concord and the public protector never lied. They were dealing with a particular issue. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable President. The Honorable Msimang. Order.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, do you support the calls that have been made for the public protector to look into all business dealings between the Gupta family and state on a case-by-case basis? To your knowledge, have any of these dealings, tenders or contracts circumvented normal supply chain process or been irregular in any way? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, I know nothing about the business dealings of the Guptas and whoever. Why should I have a view? Why should I have a view whether this must be investigated or not? I think it is the people who have knowledge of it who say so, and they must be having a knowledge of what had happened. I don't think any statement made by anyone about anybody, because you are a president, you must then support even if you don't know what is happening. Those people will certainly go to the right places of the law enforcement and raise the issues so that the issues are properly followed. It's not my business. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I'd like to remind honorable members that when we ask the follow-up questions, they should be related to the original question. Honorable Pilane Majake.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Excellency, I agree with you. The question posed by the Leader of the Opposition is time-wasting, bizarre, and full of innuendos that are supposed to continue to mislead the public. Interpretation of the Constitutional Court judgment for cheap political point scoring. The Constitutional Court judgment was just based on whether the remedial actions of the public protector are binding or not. My question to you is it not true that the President and members of the executive have always fulfilled their obligation to be properly accountable to Parliament?
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
May I address you on a point of order?
What's the point of order, Honourable
Madam, you
Kalyan?
ruled-
Honourable President, please take a seat.
Madam, you ruled earlier that subsequent questions has to be relevant to the original question put. The Speaker just now gave a critique of the question that the Leader of the Opposition put. And I submit to you, Madam, that that is not parliamentary, and you should rule on that. It is not
Honourable Kalyan, there's nothing unparliamentary.
Madam,
There's nothing unparliamentary about a question that starts off from the original question.
Madam, may I conclude my
No,
point
Honourable
of order?
Kalyan.
It is not parliamentary for one member to critique the question of another member. You're putting questions to the Honourable President.
Honourable Kalyan, thank you for taking your seat. Honourable President.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. The Honourable Member is asking the question. Of course, I have partly answered the question earlier on when I was dealing with the matter of members of the executive honouring their obligations in this Parliament by coming to answer questions, participate in the debates, and giving reports about their departments. That is being done. So they are complying with the dictates of the Constitution. So there is no problem about it. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Self.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, you earlier said that you had a bond on the property, your original house. Now, in order to raise a bond, you require collateral, normally in the form of property. But it was demonstrated in the Public Protector's report that you do not actually own that property. The question is, what collateral did you use in order to raise the bond?
The Honourable the President.
Is called in our area PTO, permission to occupy, on the bond, on both. And when I was extending, same one. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, we now come to question number 11, asked by the Honourable Ngobo. The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is a lot that government is doing to promote a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa as envisaged in the National Development Plan. The programs of government of extending basic services and a better life are aimed at promoting a more equal and fully reconciled society. We are emphasizing programs aimed at achieving economic transformation as part of promoting social cohesion and unity, working to change the quality of life of all, especially the poor and the working class, will go a long way towards achieving social cohesion. At a social level, government has several programs in place of promoting unity and togetherness of our people. We promote our diversity, which is our strength as a nation. We are promoting the national symbols such as the national flag,
which serves to unite and promote a common nationhood. The departments of basic education and arts and culture promote the flag and the Constitution in schools so that children can learn what it means to be a South African at an early stage. Government will not succeed working alone. NATLAC remains an important body which facilitates consensus and cooperation between government, labor, business, and the community in dealing with South Africa's socio-economic challenges. This forum should also be used more to promote national unity since it brings all sectors together. We also encourage our people to reach to one another and begin to understand and appreciate the various cultures, customs, and traditions that make our nation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ngobo.
Ngiyabonga Mongameli. Is it not the responsibility of all South Africans, including civil society, political parties, and faith-based organizations, among others, to work towards building a cohesive and non-racial society? Earnestly. Thank you.
Honorable the President.
It is indeed our duty and the duty of everybody to work towards building this nation a rainbow nation. All of us should participate in different areas, political parties, societies, sport organizations, NGOs. If we are South Africans, we ought to be all together working towards making this country a united country. That is the job of everyone that needs to be done, that needs to do. And therefore, as we talk about what we are doing at schools, etc., we are trying to say to the young people, as you grow up, develop the patriotism and love of your country, so that generations to come, this country will be at peace with itself, because we'll understand one another. We'll put our history behind us and identify ourselves as South Africans. That is a task and the job of every one of us. And I believe it must be the job, one of the leading job of parliamentarians, because you are the public representatives of the people. This is what people should be seeing in this House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Just on that last point that you raised, that South Africans in their millions across the country look to this House for leadership. And it is all good and well for us to condemn the elements of disagreement that we have every now and again, as it materialized earlier on in the day. But we must take that a step further, beyond condemnation. What is it that we need to do to find each other in this House? And in the presidency budget vote, you alluded to this, and the Speaker has made an undertaking. But obviously, more needs to be done. And you used to meet with leaders of parties before. What has happened to those initiatives of constant and continuous communication so that we sing from the same hymn sheet? Because one must be worried about what is going on in this House, whether it's right or wrong politically, but what message does it send to the people of South Africa if we in this House cannot agree to disagree without being disagreeable? And so I put it to you, Mr. President, notwithstanding the separation of powers, but I believe as head of state, you've got a responsibility to lead from the front and ensure that we arrest the deterioration of the situation in this House, because it is extremely concerning. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I agree with the honorable member that we need to do more than what we have been doing as this house, which is like the mirror to our people. And they look forward to this house to give leadership in the nation building, in making of the laws, in discussing the challenges of the country, in helping that we build this country. It is unfortunate that we end up with some problems of how do we handle this, and I think, as you referred to the earlier activities, which do not in any way help us. For an example, if you have what you call authority, particularly in the area of democracy, democracy is a very good system. You can't make it to look like democracy is not a good thing. People have no respect, etc. You don't even respect your own rules. You do whatever you want. You speak when you are not given the chance to speak. To you, it's just the same. It's a problem. I think the last time I was here on the budget vote, Honorable Buthelezi raised the issue very seriously. And I think it was acknowledged by the Speaker that indeed this House needed to find a way to discuss how the decorum of this House should be taken further. And therefore you are correct, I agree with you. This House needs to do something about itself. Of course you referred to the initiative of meeting the leaders of the opposition, which we used to have earlier. And of course I agree. Maybe we need again to come to terms with the fact that we need to talk. But I think political parties also on their own should give the kind of feeling that if we go to those kind of meetings, we are not just going to be insulting one another. Well, that's a fear. We might actually be increasing the area of irritation, so to speak. But I agree with you, and I'll be happy if leaders of the political parties could in fact agree that let us meet and deal with the matters. When we used to meet, one of the points I used to make was that behaving in Parliament is a different matter than behaving in a meeting of that nature where there is no spectators, so to speak. But the other thing that I used to say, we as political leaders, we ought to identify national issues that we ought not to politic about. That we need to agree that on those and these issues, we can't politic. This is what we need to do to go forward. Because I believe that all of us, no matter what party we belong to, we are here because we want to see a prosperous South Africa, a successful South Africa. The only difference is the route to reach that point. But all of us wish for a South Africa that is successful. So why do we fight among ourselves to a point that we disrupt our movement forward? So it's a matter I think the parties should actually discuss. I would be happier, for an example, if the opposition could meet and say, do we agree or do they agree to a proposal? Because I will always be ready to have those kind of meetings. Because I believe that there's a lot that we still have to do to this country to deal with the issue of poverty, inequality, and unemployment together. It's a matter we need to not fight about. What do we do to contribute that we better the lives of our people? I'm sure that would be warmly welcomed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to the last question, question number 12, which has been asked by the Honorable Jafta. The President.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members. Our government is concerned about this scourge of widespread incidents of violence and destruction of public property during protests. I've spoken about this matter many times in public platforms. We have condemned the recent burning of schools and other facilities in Vuwani, in Limpopo. The violence on university campuses and also during other protests, such actions should not find a place in our democratic South Africa where people are able to engage government and also where freedom of expression is guaranteed in the Constitution. We also wish to emphasize that government continuously engages communities. Cabinet introduced the Izimbizo program in 2000 to facilitate direct and interactive communication between government and the public. Ministers and deputy ministers continuously undertake public meetings with communities to listen to concerns and respond. The President and Deputy President also hold several public meetings per year as well, engaging communities on many programs that government implements, and also to hear their views on how we can improve services. The GCIS also organizes special national Imbizo focus weeks where ministers and deputy ministers visit communities in a more intensive manner. The last Imbizo focus week was held from 7 to the 12th April 2015 and involved a total number of 94 public interaction meetings being undertaken. The Imbizo Focus Week of 30 November to 6 December 2015 included 66 activities. The visit include door-to-door household profiling, walkabouts or project visits, stakeholders, dialogues, and community engagements. The programs in the presidency include the Presidential Siyahlola Monitoring Program that aims to fast-track interventions, the Presidential Imbizo, and also the Presidential Infrastructure Program. The Deputy President leads the War on Poverty programs and visits many communities in addition to visits linked to the fight against HIV and AIDS and other diseases. A report is presented by the presidency at each cabinet lekgotla detailing the public engagements activities of each minister and deputy ministers every 6 months. The report for January to July 2015 to the mid-year cabinet lekgotla indicated that over 700 events were held by members of the National Executive. The report for July to December 2015 recorded over 600 Imbizo events having been undertaken by ministers and deputy ministers. In this regard, community engagement do take place and these will be intensified. A key feature of our Back to Basics local government plan is municipal leadership, as this sphere is the closest to the people. Where criminal elements
take advantage of community concerns and engage in violence, law enforcement agencies have been directed to act swiftly to bring them to justice. We cannot allow people to undermine the good progress we are making in building infrastructure that improves the lives of our people. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Jafta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I must first say that I am already discouraged in this question by what has just happened here. The reason for that is because I believe we cannot address the issue of public violent protest, whilst on the other side, we in this House act thus violently. Thank you, Honorable President, for your response, which indicates clearly that the government knows what the people want, but is not prepared to meet their demands. I really thought you will draw up the picture for South Africans of what the government expects from them in order for their voice to be heard without engaging in violent protest. As the AIC, we condemn violent protest as you, Honorable President, do as the head of the state. However, it is very much pathetic to learn that after so many years of democracy, South Africans are still obliged to use violence to attract the attention of their government to address their demands. I'm saying that, Honorable Speaker,
actually your time has long passed. Question is, do you have a question?
My question, Honorable President, therefore, is that would you say that these protesting communities are demanding too much from the government, or is the government turning a deaf ear towards these masses and respond too late to their demands? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Well, firstly, as government, we listen to the concerns of the people and we respond to them. We have programs that are all over the country addressing those issues. We have dealt with the matters that people are concerned about. I think the issue that is very simple is that given our history, the challenge, the lack of things that people are looking for is a thing that has taken many years. Let me just give you an example of electricity that people want. Until 1994, no one thought that the rural areas, for an example, need electricity. We had to start just 20 years ago. And we are dealing with that issue, and precisely because the demand is so huge because of our history, we are still dealing with that issue to conclude. I think we have been able to electrify or bring energy to the greater part of the country. We are still continuing. But those that the electricity or the lighting has not come to their areas, they become impatient and therefore say, where we want it now is a matter that we have got to deal with as a reality. And I can count a number of things that indicate we listen, we respond. The problem that also we did not address of violence is that we come from a very violent system called apartheid. Very violent. And people developed violence to fight it. And we have never addressed that issue. To say now
we are in a different situation. So people, once they see something, they take it up through violence. At times, the violence that is not acceptable at all. Because if we are saying you need services, you can't at the same time destroy things that have been given as services to the people. You can't. In a sense, it then undermines the logic of what we are doing. That you get angry and you destroy the very things, libraries. Right now, there is a whole university, schools have been destroyed because there is a debate about the issue of where areas must be. The schools have not done anything wrong, but you ban the schools. You have now one university also banned very extensively. That is the issue, as we were saying earlier. We all need to come together to deal with it. Nobody must be happy because you believe these people are fighting a government. That's a problem we're dealing with. It's not that we are not attending to the issues. Even if you stretch the issue beyond, this violence, for an example, against women and children, you don't need it in a democratic society. You have a very violent mind in the country which was planted by the system of apartheid. We need to address that as we build our nation. So I agree with you that we need to address it. But if you take it and say it is because the government is ignoring the people, it's not true. I've just given an account here how much we go to the people, how much we go to the Mbizos, how much we do continuously. So it can't be true. We are dealing with a culture that needs all of us to come together. Even the morale of our people, their morals. You have a situation where people rape old ladies or children. You can't say that is because of the government ignoring them. There is something wrong in our society that we need to come together, all of us, and deal with it. That is what we ought to be saying as this parliament. What can we do to help our society? Speak in one language. I think when you were opening your remarks, you put it very well, that you are discouraged by the behavior of this very parliament. That's what makes people think that's what they need to do. No respect, point fingers at the speaker, and stand up one after the other. That tells you you are dealing with people who are a product of a very violent society, who need help. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mileham.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, the community of Vuwane say they were not consulted as part of the establishment of the new municipality in Limpopo. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, please proceed. Honourable Members, allow the Honourable Member to finish his question.
In light of the current protests in Vuwane, which has seen 24 schools burnt, allegedly with the involvement of ANC Ward Councillor Takalani Chavuyo, what steps did your government take to ensure that the community was given adequate opportunity to comment on the proposed amalgamation with Malumulele, if any? And if none, why not?
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, the business of demarcation belongs to the demarcation board. It is them who know how to consult with people, and I can't tell you how much they consulted, how much they didn't, because I was not party to it. It's a job of the demarcation commission, a demarcation board rather. And therefore, to what extent was the consultation, I can't help you on that one. Unfortunately, because I would be telling the story that I don't know. Because that is a job of a particular structure in the country that deals with. And once that was done, then people are not happy about it. And of course they did what I just said here. instead of addressing the issue, firstly, they addressed it properly. They took decision to go to court. And the court made a judgment. They were not happy about the judgment, and then they started protesting and banned schools. What we have done, for an example, up to now, I had a meeting with the king of the vendor king and had a discussion. He came with the traditional leaders. And that's when we began to see the discussions that let us find ways and means of addressing the issue, not banning schools, because we are really banning the future of our country. So that is what I've done. As to how far it goes, there are departments that are responsible even to deal with the demarcation board. Then they will be able to know the truth. Was the consultation done or whatever? This was done by the citizens of that region. It was not done by any organization. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Phakisa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Excellency, the President, let's begin by saying that we all condemn any destruction of property. It's not acceptable. We condemn anarchy. But of course, people are complaining about non-service delivery at some parts of our country. But there are issues that are at stake. What is the government doing about those officials who are corrupt in order to find that they are migrated from one municipality to another? Because that's one other problem. And then secondly, the issue of not spending the money that is there, where in some instances the MIC funding will have to be returned back to the treasurer without being used, because those are some of the issues. What is your take on that one, Your Excellency?
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we've debated those issues a long time. Firstly, we do not accept the fact that officials must be involved in causing problems. And wherever they are found doing that, action has been taken against those. And secondly, and then of course we are talking about some of them moving from one area to the other. I'm sure if that is discovered, will certainly be dealt with. And if there are such cases that we know, I think we should report the cases so that those matters are handled at the right places wherever they are. With regard to the unspent money, I think that's a problem we've discussed all the time. The money that comes back. We are working hard to help, skill and empower the municipalities so that they are able to handle the question of how to use the funds so that they don't come back. They do come back because at some point there are specific issues which are not necessarily the same. They're different kind of issues. We have been working with the Auditor General, for an example, to ensure that we bring up to the speed the question of skills. In fact, the report of the Auditor General recently has admitted that we are making some progress, although we have not arrived at the level that will be required, but we are making progress, which confirms we are doing something to address those matters. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, sir.
South Africa records about 30 service delivery protests a day, every day. These protests are, by and large, a result of the failure of the executive to so deliver what was promised or expected by the communities. Most common ones would be no access to land, no access to water, no access to housing. These are basic rights which are enshrined in our Constitution. You dare not fail at that level. We as MPs never get to know exactly how you deal with the failing executive members. It's a total secret to us. I've heard what you explained about the meetings that you hold, but we don't really know what happens in those meetings. How do you deal then with those ministers? Alternatively, because provinces are not subject to the authority of the ministers, and therefore they do what they please with the fiscus. Have you considered the option of transferring funds rather direct to municipalities instead of wasting money, through provinces? You can trace all of them. They don't account properly, and there is hardly any production that they can report on. What effective measures then do you intend dealing with, putting in place in order for service delivery to excel in your time? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, I must correct this point that the protests are there because government is failing to deliver. It's not true. The bulk of what I've been saying today was saying we are faced with an unusual situation in this country where the majority of people were deprived resources, put in rural areas, some put in what was called homelands, not to come to where economy were. There is a history why the question of the demand is too high than what you can give. But we are doing all we can to do so. Secondly, the protests don't just come because there are resources only. There are other reasons that cause protests in other areas. At times it is conflict among people who are in those areas that influence protests in one form or the other. Some protests about, for an example, by the students, different than the services we are talking about, but acting exactly the same. So we are addressing that as government, and people know it. Some of the protests are because people are impatient that in the area next door there is delivery already, why not here? And then they get agitated by the very delivery that they see. Your last part of the question is saying, shouldn't I consider sending the money direct to the municipalities or whatever, instead of the proper channels? The division of the budget, what is given to provinces and municipalities, is a constitutional matter. It's not a matter that needs a president to stand up and say, now we do it this way. You will stand up here and say, this president does not respect the Constitution. It needs you, if you think you need to change the Constitution, so that you make that proposal, so that it can be discussed by this House. You can then change the Constitution so that it is not the man, the president. It is the parties all put together who change the Constitution in order to meet the proposal you are making. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
That concludes questions to the President, and I thank the Honorable the President. Honorable members, before we rise, I wish to go back to the issue raised by Honorable Jafta. In particular, for purposes of making clear that the public, because we are not just alone here, we also have the people of South Africa. The Honorable Member, in the way he relates the issue of violent protests to the action earlier here in the House, I think could easily confuse South Africans. And therefore, it is very important that we should clarify that on the basis of rules that all the parties in the House were involved in formulating, we arrived at ways of dealing with situations in the House where there is no other option but to remove honorable members who in fact become an obstacle to there being order and progress in the House. And it is that mechanism that we deployed earlier this afternoon, where we called upon properly authorized parliamentary protection services to remove honorable members who were an obstacle to progress in the House. I want to repeat this just so that our people also understand why we have had to deploy such a mechanism. Honorable members, that concludes the business
you
for the
recognized
day.
me earlier. You recognized me earlier and you're now not giving me my opportunity.
I recognized you for what?
You made sure that Mr. Maimani finished his question. You said you were going to come back to me. I've been sitting here patiently. I took a point of order.
What was your point of order, Honorable Steenhuisen?
I want to address you in terms of Rule 53A, if I may.
Yes.
And I'm very glad that you've clarified it. And you're
Yes.
absolutely right, Madam Speaker, that this House cannot operate without rules that govern its internal behaviours. You're also absolutely right that the rules must apply to everybody in this House equally. I therefore want to raise a concern with you, if I may, Madam Speaker.
Go ahead.
On the 4th of May, when we had the President's budget vote, there was an ejection that took place in this House of the EFF members, utilising Rule 53A, the one you've just referred to. 53A.12 of those same rules indicates that after an ejection has taken place, that a report is within 24 hours forwarded to a multi-party oversight committee. I want to point out to you that it's now been 312 hours. I serve on the Rules Committee. I serve on many of these committees in Parliament. There's not been a report to any multi-party oversight committee. The Rules Committee is meeting later after this sitting. It's not on the agenda there. And so I would urge you that when in applying the rules, that you apply all the rules in terms of 53A, and that report is sent within the next, by close of business tomorrow, to this House, as per the rules that you must uphold, to ensure that the rules are applied thoroughly and properly and apply equally to all members of the House.
Thank you, Honorable Steenhuisen. The Rules Committee will be sitting when the House adjourns. That concludes the business for the day. The House is adjourned.